He really tried to help me when I first got there. I remember he one of my first finishers in AEW, he wanted me to do a bulldog 'cause that was his finish, so I think that's really sweet of him that he wanted me to do something that he
Yeah.
was doing just 'cause he believed in me so much. He's like, "Oh, do a bulldog and land in the splits or something." I'm like,
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into the Takedown on SI YouTube channel. How's it going? I'm Zack Heydorn with Sports Illustrated, and today, super pumped to have with me on the show former TBS champion Julia Hart. Julia, thanks so much for joining me. Happy Friday.
"Hey, happy Friday. Thanks for having me."
Yeah, so man, there's so much that I want to to get into here because you've had such a such an interesting run and you're at the top of your game in AEW. But I think the first thing that I want to know is just how are you feeling? How, you're back from injury, you're back,
Mhm.
in the ring. How does that feel for you after a relatively decent layoff?
Yeah, I feel fine. I didn't even think about my shoulder with the match with Jamie. I had a torn labrum in my right shoulder is what the injury was, and yeah, I didn't even think about it in the match. I was just so focused on beating up Jamie. If anything, my back hurt, but that has nothing to do with my shoulder. So I felt really good.
How does from an athlete's perspective,
Mhm.
you have this injury and you have to get it repaired and then the recovery happens. I mean, how does an athlete like you who's working to get back into the ring, like what's your mindset in terms of rehabbing and just working to get yourself back into shape?
Yeah, I think I just was doing the best that I could. I actually was pretty healthy by the beginning of at the end of September is when I was
Okay.
pretty much like almost 100%. I wasn't like back to full strength, but mobility wise, I was pretty good. But I think it was better that I took more time just to relax and to make sure I was 1,000% than just hopping back in right away in September because that would have only been 3 months out.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Uh, I'm lucky that I'm young and I fixed it now instead of down the line have more problems. So, um, yeah, I just worked really hard to get that strength back up and have mobility, and it paid off. And I'm glad I took more time than I needed. So that was 100%.
What did it feel like to kind of make your return? I mean, it even 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, like whatever. Like once I feel like if you're on an athlete who's recovering from an injury, that it has
Mhm.
to feel good to finally put that road behind you and start new, start fresh. You had a great reaction when you came out. Like,
Yeah.
just talk about like how that felt and just to be back officially in AEW.
Yeah, it felt so good. I think the one thing I craved the most was the adrenaline right before you go out was definitely the one thing I was dreaming about coming back. It's just, oh, right before the curtain and the music hits, like you feel like you're gonna throw up, and then you get out there, and it's just like this whoosh of emotions, and you're just so excited. And the day I came back to when I surprised Jamie, I think you could tell I was trying so hard not to smile, but I was so happy just to be back in the ring, and yeah, it was great.
Well, in the crowd, I think when you left, not left, but when you were on the shelf with injuries, you had
Mhm.
so much momentum behind you. Like you had the
Thank you.
new kind of the character that was coming together and coming to its own. You had just won the TBS championship, you know, and you're kind of just taking off like that, and then you got to have whatever injuries happen, right? It's
Yeah.
part of the game. Um, so I think like I don't know. To me, when I was watching it, I felt like there was this just moment of like the fans like, okay, we can get back on that ride. We can get back on that ride again because it got cut short, when we were going up, and now let's get back on the roller coaster.
Yeah, I think it's just crazy how much I've been through in 4 years of being just in wrestling, of having a cheerleader character, doing a whole 180, building my way up to become the TBS championship, and then going through an injury, like all in a span of just 4 years. I feel like I've
Crazy.
been through so much, and I still have so much more to go through. but I think it's just everything comes with a lesson and just figuring out how to navigate where you're going and how to do it and just do it with grace. So I think I looked at the injury as more of a lesson and more of just like a calm down, Julia, like breathe, take in everything that just happened because great things just happened and just take everything day by day.
Is it hard? Is it hard, as you're, whatever, on the road and you're working, you're doing interviews like these, like, is it hard
Mhm.
to take a step back and, kind of like appreciate those 4 years? Because you're right. I mean, you had such a, like, from the cheerleader gimmick to what you have now and
Yeah,
championship, it's like you've had like like a 10-12 year career in 4 years.
right. Yeah, I guess it is just also like learning how to wrestle on TV. I think Ruby Soho told me once she was like, took her, I don't know how long it was, I can't remember, 8 years before she was on TV. She had 8 years of learning before
Right.
she then got on TV. And like my 10th match was on TV against Britt Baker. So I didn't know what I was doing. So I just, just kind of got thrown in there and just trying to learn. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it is just a lot. It is a lot just to also be happy with everything you're doing instead of just critiquing the heck out of everything as well. So just appreciating everything that I've done so far. Yeah.
What went into those early matches that you had on TV? You know if you were learning to have matches, as you
Yeah.
said, but you're doing it in front of, like, normally if you're picking up indie shows or whatever, when you're starting out, maybe there's a couple hundred people there, and here you are, national audience, a million people. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you prepare for that? Is it just kind of repetition? Is it just knowing the match and knowing the spots, relying on your, the dance
Yeah.
partner across from you in the ring? Like, how do you, I mean, that's got to be stressful.
Yeah, I think that's where my cheerleading background helped a lot of like remembering a routine and being in front of a crowd. And honestly, it was never the crowd
Mhm.
that I was afraid of. It was more so coming to the back and making sure, Tony's happy or whoever my coach was, Dustin Rhodes is happy with what I just did and what I did makes sense. And then if what am I doing to them that is more so what I was scared of. I would come from the back like, oh no, like I know I probably did so many things wrong and I know I want to get better. So yeah, it was more so the people in the back I was more scared of than the crowd itself because, you know,
Would
people are
you
just there
have
every day.
like would you have
Yeah.
like debriefs with your coaches, when you go backstage, like, or like after the
Yeah.
matches, or and they like kind of walk you through, like, hey, this was great and this is where there could be improvement. Like, was that pretty
Yeah.
instant, or did it take a while to get that feedback?
Yeah, Dustin was a big part of it when I first got there, just really trying to help me. I think he always saw something in me and he really believed in me and he really tried to help me when I first got there. I remember he one of my first finishers in AEW, he wanted me to do a bulldog 'cause that was his finish. So I think that's really sweet of him that he wanted me to do something that he
Yeah.
was doing just because he believed in me so much. He's like, "Oh, do a bulldog and land in the splits or something." Like something like, something like that. So I really had Dustin, Jerry Lynn, Dean Malenko, all great people just trying to help all the women in the locker room as well. They all try to help as well.
Man, that's quite the Rolodex you're building up there of people that are
Yeah.
supporting you. When you name Dean Belinko, Jerry Lynn, and and Dustin Rhodes, not to mention, all the other women that you're working with. That's pretty good company. That's pretty good company.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
okay, so we got to talk about the character and the gimmick here a
Yeah.
little bit. I mean, you talked about, starting off with the cheerleader gimmick, and then you were able to just pivot that into this, like, a darker,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more serious, like, and just really intriguing, kind of, not even really, I mean, yes, character, but like an act, like a whole act in AEW. How did you come up with this idea, and how did you kind of take the House of Black thing and run with it to make it your own? Like, just take me through, like, kind of the thought process and like the early iterations of how you constructed this whole thing.
Yeah, I think I just needed to take myself more seriously. I think in the cheerleader role, I looked at the cheerleader as like an annoying preppy girl because I
Mhm.
was, being a cheerleader all of high school. That's how we were always looked at, just the annoying preppy girls. But I was never really like that. I was never like smiling. I always wore baggy clothes and a jacket with a hood
Okay.
over my head in high school. So I looked at the cheerleader thing as a whole different thing, but instead when I got to AEW, everyone's like, "Oh, you're so cute, you're so bubbly, like do this, this, and this." So then it was really hard for me to be aggressive because like I'm this cute, bubbly little girl. So I'm like, I don't know how to translate that to make me serious. It's like I wasn't until the House of Black and I saw what they were about to do with House of Black, and I was like, I think I could do that. And then they asked me to do a promo for them and I did it and they were like, "Oh, you do have something to you. You are more than just a little girl." And they were like, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I guess okay, we'll see. And then it took like 4 months for me to actually join the group, and I was just patiently waiting, and in those 4 months, I was watching, Wednesday, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Kill Bill, studying Stevie Nicks, like all of these
Wow.
different people I'm trying to pull from that I think could match what I'm trying to do. So, yeah, I try to pull from different areas other than wrestling, like movies, TV, and music.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, now that you're saying like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Stevie Nicks, it's like, I mean, yeah, there's a little of them in all of that. That's so
Thank you.
cool.
Yeah.
Do you the 4 months like kind of leading up to like the turn where you kind of had like you had like the black stuff on your eye and you're
Yeah.
just acting a little bit differently. At that point, did you know that like Julia Hart in the House of Black, that's a go for launch, and this was just like a lead up to it, or were you
I
not
guess
sure at that point?
I think um and wrestling things change all the time. So, you hear one thing one week and the next week it's different. So I think I was just trying really hard to hold on to this eye patch. I'm not taking this eye patch off until I join House of Black was my in my head. I was like, I'm never gonna take this thing off unless I join. So you have to put me in the group. I guess was in my head. So I was like, I'm gonna rock with this every week and hopefully have I mean, it took 4 months. For a while, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna happen because, I didn't really hear anything. I was just
Yeah.
honestly sitting on the step like I was for the blondes, sitting there being like, man, I hope I can join House of Black. That was really there was some truth to how I was actually acting of, yeah, I want to join House of Black. So
Wow. So great. Well, I mean, is there a level of comfortability that you have with your character now? I mean, it just seems like it's so, not only is it something that you like want to do or, character that you want to be in and working with, but it just seems like you're just fully tapped into like who that character is. I mean, so how much does that comfortability with the character you're playing help you?
yeah, I think I'm getting really comfortable to the point where I'm like, okay, am I supposed to change something now? I'm like, no, I think I should slow down and just appreciate again everything I'm doing and really keep running with it. So it's like, oh, should I try this and this? Like, I know I tried the archery stuff. I'm like, oh, maybe I could become something like this. But I think sometimes I get too excited with ideas, and sometimes I just need to relax and I need to focus on just getting better in ring and working on more promos and just really breathing.
Next week on AW Dynamite's Maximum Carnage, it's going to be the first ever women's casino gauntlet match.
Mhm.
Is Julia Hart going to be partaking in that? Do you know at this point? Maybe, maybe not.
No, maybe. I hope so. I think that's a
Yeah,
great opportunity. I would love to. If they want to put me in it, I would love to do it. But I don't know. Well, you'll have to watch and find out.
there we go. What does it mean to you to see, the women's division? There's been men's casino gauntlet matches. Now this is going to be the first ever women's one. You're a major part of the women's division in AEW and AEW as a whole. Like, what does it mean to you as a performer and as a woman in that division to see these same opportunities come your way as they have for the men?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I was watching, the men's match on Wednesday, just trying to study just in case of like, oh, like what. looking, how can I win this? Watching in
Mhm.
that perspective of, okay, what works and all the different things. But I think it's great that we're getting the same opportunities as the men because I think, not to be biased, but the women's division is one of my favorite parts of wrestling. It's always been, but so it's great.
Who in AEW like do you have on your list, on your hit list, so to speak?
Yeah,
If
of
you're gonna be
course.
back now, you're like ready to go. I'm sure the TBS championship is on your mind to get that thing back. But in terms of just other talent to work with, like
Yeah.
what's your hit list?
Yeah, I would. Jamie has always been on my list, so I'm so happy I got to work with her. I think Serena Deeb, I've always wanted to work with. I think she's someone I can just really learn from. And I think Tony, obviously. I've never worked with Tony. I've never worked with Mariah. I would love to work with Harley Cameron. She's
Okay.
amazing. Um, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's Mercedes, but she has my belt, but it's okay.
Hey, there you go. The ultimate showdown, you know?
Yeah, right.
Oh man. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. I know you're busy, and appreciate it. Congrats on all of your success. Once again, AW Dynamite Maximum Carnage on Wednesday. You're not going to want to miss it. The first ever women's casino gauntlet match. Julia Hart, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.